The NIL is a joke. It has nothing to do with NIL. NIL was created, okay, for players that would be able to use their name, their image, and their likeness, a la NIL. The idea was if you have a Tim Tebow, there's no reason as to why Tim Tebow can produce millions and millions and millions of dollars, but then turn around and sign an autograph for some money, and then next thing you know, he's an NCAA violation and he should get suspended. Like most things in this country, we can't just rationalize. We can't figure out, okay, you know what, that's not right. Let's figure out a better way. Let's figure out a solution. No, we just go from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. NIL has become nothing more than pay to play. We all know it. And maybe you could argue it's always been that way. And I'm not suggesting here that the Ohio States of the world and Miami of Ohio of the world should be the same and equal. It's not going to be, and it never will be, and it shouldn't be, because the commitment to each one of these programs, to a certain extent, matters. But we're going to look back in 20 years and laugh at the concept of what's going to happen over the next few. And that is this. You have working, and when I say working class, some are going to laugh at that because obviously some of these boosters are millionaires, certainly millionaires. Maybe even some of these boosters are billionaires with a B. But the idea of the private sector coming in and funding athletic programs largely just to get players is nothing to do with the first overall thought of what NIL has become. I don't know who's at fault for this, probably the NCAA, because there's no boundaries on this whatsoever. But how come it always falls at the lap of the fan? How come it always falls on the lap of the taxpayer that has to fund the stadium? Why in the world do we have to have NIL collectives? Because the next thing you know, this backup safety at this school or this quarterback from this school is going to hold out now because they want to make money, and it has literally nothing to do with their actual worth from a marketing perspective, to be clear. They obviously have worth on the football field than going and playing, but that's different than selling cars for some random car dealership, is it not? And what we've come to realize and what we've come to find out and what many of these players have figured out is that their worth outside of just that complex of the stadium is not very high. I'm sorry, but the running back at the University of Cincinnati is not going to sell that many cars for Weiler. But yet, the athletic departments, the ones that are bringing in ticket sales, the ones that ultimately, right, for lack of a better term, are getting the players to play for their institution for free. Meanwhile, the NCAA and the schools themselves and the conferences, well, I should say the conferences, but the schools are aligned to the conferences, are getting paid billions, with a B, billions of dollars for these TV right contracts. And none of that money comes filtering down to the players, not a single dollar of it. No, we'll just keep going and asking for the common man to spend $100 here, $200 there to just buy into this NIL collective so we can pay for players. We need to compete with everybody else. Yet, who's sitting around at these mahogany desks inside of these NCAA institutions, certainly the conference institutions, and without question, the top echelon of the universities? Where's the money there? At least if you're a big donor before, you could at least see a building with your name on it. It wasn't going to go anywhere. It was a facility. Now you're paying a quarterback multi-millions of dollars that, I don't know, plays 1 year, doesn't play well. What's it matter? He just leaves. This whole thing's going to crash and burn about as fast as one can crash and burn, because you're going to have NIL fatigue from people paying money to players, them either not producing and or them transferring because they don't get enough money, and the next thing you know, you have a world of mess on your hands, because ultimately at the end of the day, we know what's going to happen. Only the select few programs, and it's already there now, are going to have the money to be able to continue to withstand the churn rate, the burn rate of this money on the NIL. Do we think it's even relatively remotely fair to these college? I'm not trying to say these college coaches need a pat on the back or anything like that. But again, how many college coaches signed up for the idea of, yes, you got to go recruit? Pretty much a 365-day job. Now, okay, you get them in the building. Okay, well, are they happy? Is their family happy? Is there other schools trying to poach them away because they think that they can pay them a little bit more than you're paying them? So then now you have to do what? You got to go out and fundraise? Why doesn't the school have the ability to pay the players is what I'm asking. They're the ones that make the money. They're the ones that get all the ticket sales. They're the ones that sign these big multimedia deal contracts with people that allow them to bring in revenue. And you know what? At some point, water finds its level. And then guess what? The backup safety or, hell, even the quarterback will realize this is what you're worth here, man. Because right now it's fun. It's basically, like it or not, similar to live. You got a bunch of money coming in for something, but the math never makes sense. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to be paying some of these quarterbacks millions of dollars because they're not worth that. And if they are worth that, okay, then why are you asking the local car dealership to pay for it? I know maybe it's because you can, but is that right? Is that the way it should be? Or is that a system that's ultimately going to fold, like a deck of cards? I'm willing to bet on the latter. NIL is the worst thing that's happened to college sports, not because the players don't deserve to get paid, but by the way that it's been handled.